Hello, students. Welcome back to another incredible week online with Miss Marshan. Okay, we're picking up from where we left off on Friday, which is our lesson on solving linear equations in one variable with variables on both sides. I did send a message for you to do this for homework. So we're going to go ahead and check it right now to see if you have the right answers. Now, if you did not do your homework, my suggestion is that you go ahead and do your homework so that you get the full credit. Okay? Also, these problems will be on your quiz this Wednesday. You do have a quiz this week, so please make sure you are prepared for it. All right, so the example talks about the weight of Kiko's kitten, which is 1/6 the weight of her puppy. If each animal gains 3 pounds, the kitten will weigh 1/3 as much as the puppy. The equation 16W plus 3 equals 1/3 times the quantity W plus 2 describes the situation, where W is the weight of the puppy. Now, how much does the puppy weigh? So if you notice in this problem, they have already worked it out. So I'm just going to go through and explain a couple of things that they did in the problem. The first thing they did was they got rid of this fraction. The two fractions you see are 1/6 and 1/3. So the common denominator, which is the LCD, least common denominator of 3 and 6, 3 times 3 is 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. The smallest number they have in common is 6. So when you find an equivalent fraction with a new denominator of 6, this stays the same because 1 times 6 is 6. So 1 times 1 will be 6. You ask yourself, what number times 3 give you 6? You should have said 2. So the new number up here will be 2/6. Okay, so we found the common denominator to get rid of the fraction. Okay, so with that being said, if you multiply 1/6 by 6, place 6 over 1, multiply across, that gives you 6 over 6, which equals 1. If you multiply 6 times 1/3, place your 6 over 1 and you multiply across, they give you 6 over 3, which equals 2. So when you simplify this part right here, 6 times 1/3, you get 2. And when you simplify 6 times 1/6, you get 1W, which is the same as 1W means 1 times W, which is how they get just W. Okay? So the first thing they did was get rid of the fraction. On the second line, they just simplified it a little further. On the third line, they distributed. So they just use a distributive property here, where they distributed 6 times 1/6 give me 1W, and 6 times 3 gives you 18. 2 times W give you 2W, and 2 times 3 give you 6. So in this line, all they did was simplify. Okay, here they did distribute. Okay, they distributed the number on the outside of the parentheses. Okay, and on the next line, they combined like terms. Okay, so they brought this W on the other side so that this could cancel. They subtracted W on both sides. And then on the next line, they subtracted 6, even though they didn't show you. If you subtract 6 on both sides here, this cancels and you're left with W equals 12. Okay, so now the puppy weighs 12 pounds now. All right, so in the example, it says, how much will the kitten weigh if it gains 3 pounds? So first of all, you have to know the weight of the kitten. The weight of the kitten The weight of the kitten is 1/6 times W plus 3. Now that we know that the weight of the kitten equals 12, we're going to replace 12 into this equation. So 1/6 times 12 over 1 plus 3. That gives me 12 over 6 plus 3. 12 over 6 equals 2 plus 3 equals 5. Therefore, the solution, the kitten weighs 5 pounds. Okay, the kitten weighs 5 pounds. All right, number 2. It says solve this equation and show your work. Again, if you did not solve this equation, please pause the video, solve it first, then come back and check your answer. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify this problem by distributing. Okay, so I'm going to distribute 5 times 2t minus 5 times 3 minus 7 and 5/10 t equals 5/10 times 12 minus 5/10 times t. So all we did here was distribute the number on the outside of parentheses to what's on the inside. Now if you notice, this subtracted 7 and 5/10 t is not in parentheses, so we don't have to bring the 5 over to that. Okay? So to keep going, on the next line, 5 times 2t is 10t, minus 5 times 3 is 15, minus 7 and 5/10 t equals 5/10 times 12. That's basically 5/10 is equal to 1/2. 5/10 is the same thing as 5 over 10, which simplifies to 1/2. Because the number that's the greatest common factor in both is 5. Okay? So half of 12 is 6. Minus 5/10 t. Now we have to combine our like terms. Here we have 10t minus 7 and 5/10 t. When you subtract those, that gives you 2 and 5/10 t minus 15 equals 6 minus 5/10 t. Now we want to bring all our variables to one side and our constants to the other. So this is a subtracted 5/10. I'm going to add 5/10 t over here. That'll cancel this out. And I want to bring my constant to the other side by adding 15. Now this cancels out. Now over here I'm going to keep writing the equation. So we combine 2 and 5/10 t plus 5/10 t. That gives us 3.0 t equals 6 plus 15 is 21. Now divide both sides by 3.0. Therefore, t equals 7. So therefore, the solution is 7. Okay. Any questions on page 235? If you do, drop a comment, leave a comment below in the video, and I'll definitely answer your questions. For now, go ahead and turn to page 236. And again, if you have not solved these problems, pause the video, solve it, and then come back and do it. All right, it says Ms. Sean, write this equation on the board. She asks her students to find the solution. Keith's work is shown below. What mistake did Keith make? All right, so first we're going to evaluate what happened here. All right, first we want to do the distributive property. Okay, so on this first line, we want to have negative 40 minus 2 times 3m minus 2 times 1/2 equals 7m minus 2. All right, so we see on Keith's first line, he simplified. So let's go ahead and simplify this line. So this gives us negative 40 minus 6m minus 1 equals 7m minus 2. So if we compare our line to Keith's first line, it doesn't look the same. I'll rewrite it. Okay. So if we notice, Keith's mistake is right here. He multiplied a negative 2 times 1/2 and got a positive 1. When we know that a negative times a positive is a negative. So if I multiply negative 2 times 1/2, I'm going to place this negative 2 over 1 and multiply across. Negative 2 times 1 gives me negative 2. Positive 1 times 2 gives me positive 2. And a negative divided by a positive is a negative 1. Okay, so that's where his mistake was in the problem. Okay, so mistake was Keith multiplied a positive times a negative, and he thought the answer should have been positive. But it should be a negative 1. Okay? Then it says, what is the solution to the equation? So in order to do the solution to the equation, we must solve this equation. Okay? So we're going to solve this equation. So I'm going to pick up from where I left off on that line up there. And I'm going to rewrite this as negative 40 minus 6m minus 1 equals 7m minus 2. I'm going to combine like terms. My like terms are negative 40 and negative 1. A negative and a negative adds and gives me a negative. If they have the same sign, add them at the same time. Keep the sign the same kind. So it gives me negative 41 minus 6m equals 7m minus 2. Now we want to combine our like terms. Okay. Since 7m is my larger variable on that side, I'm going to add 6m to both sides so I can move this variable to where the 7 is. And that'll get rid of my variables over here. So I need to bring this constant of a 2 to the other side. So since it's a minus 2, I'm going to add 2 to both sides to get rid of it on the other side. Okay, so that leaves me with a negative and a positive. Subtract and take the sign of the larger absolute value. So it gives me negative 39 equals 13m. Okay, so I'm going to bring this over here. Negative 39 equals 13m. I'm going to divide both sides by the coefficient, which is 13. Okay, so now a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So your answer here is negative 3 equals m. So the solution is m equals negative 3. All right. Hope you all understand how to work that. Now let's go to number 4. All right. Number 4 says that Martha practices long jump. She jumps the same distance on her first 4 jumps. Her last 2 jumps are 1 1/2 feet longer than her first 4 jumps. Her average jump distance is 16 feet. The equation below represents a situation where J is the distance of each of Martha's first 4 jumps. All right, so they already set the equation up for us. So we have to solve it because it's actually what is the distance of the first 4 jumps. So we know that the distance is J. Okay, so in order to get rid of this fraction, the denominator has a 6 in it. So we're going to multiply both sides by 6 to get rid of that fraction. Okay, I'm going to do that first. I'm going to do it in red. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this side of the equation by 6 and this side of the equation by 6. Okay, if I do that and I place this 6 over 1, these will cancel out. And I'll just be left with the numerator, which is 4J plus 2 times J plus 1 5/10 equals 16 times 6. And 16 times 6 is 96. So now that we've got rid of the fraction, we just need to apply the distributive property. So let's distribute. We have 4J, and then 2 times J is 2J, plus 2 times 1 5/10 is 3, equals 96. Now to combine like terms, we're combining 4J and 2J, which is 6J, plus 3 equals 96. Now we want to bring our constant to the other side, so we're going to subtract 3, which is the inverse operation. This cancels out, and we're left with 6J equals 93. Now we're going to divide both sides by 6. And we divide both sides by 6. This will cancel, and J will equal, we got to divide 6 into 93. That goes in 1 time. 1 times 6 is 6. Subtract, you get 3. Bring down your other 3. 6 goes into 33 5 times. 5 times 6 is 30. You subtract, you have 3. Have to add a decimal here, bring it up. And add another 0, bring the 0 down. 6 goes into 30 5 times without a remainder. So therefore, this is my result. So J is 15 5/10. So it says the equation represents a situation where J is the distance of each of Martha's first 4 jumps. So that means her distance must have been 15 5/10 feet for her jump. Okay, so this is your result. All right, guys, I hope you got those correct because you will see them again on your assessment coming up. So make sure you know all of your vocabulary, your illustrations, as well as the definitions for each of them. And make sure you know how to solve one-step equations, two-step equations with distributive property and fractions. All right? All right. Thank you. Get ready to work on your next lesson.